Drug deal at a home in Beeville, busted by police there. Now just take a look at the pills that they were able to confiscate. They look very similar to candies or even kids' vitamins. Beeville PD says they suspect that this is actually ecstasy. It was just before 4 this afternoon when police officers responded to a home off North Avenue E after receiving information of people dealing drugs there. Several people were detained. 27-year-old Trey Worley and 31-year-old Helen Cantu were arrested on multiple charges, including manufacture and delivery of a controlled substance and child endangerment. Again, you're looking at those pills, how much they resemble candy. A reminder to parents, make sure to be aware of where your child's candy is coming from this Halloween.